what we have now is a time-certain non-agenda, or as I like to call it, supplemental agenda item. This item is in regards to the City Commission hiring a lawyer or law firm to give it advice as to how, on our, I call it corporate governance standards, but it's almost like a double governance standard, how we should proceed forward. I know Commissioner Spence Jones wants me to read something into the record, but I'm going to recognize her first.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank the commissioners for their spirit of patience in all of this, but I just wanted to officially put something on the record, and in the spirit of wisdom, I just want to also make sure that I at least put on the record something that my attorney would like for me to do. Also recognizing, so that we're all on the same page, that this is a discussion item, so it's not a voting item, so I just want to read my statement, and at that point, I will recuse myself. All right? This is a non-agenda item. This non-agenda item involves hiring an attorney to advise the Commission on whether the City of Miami should pay for the mayor's defense attorney. Out of an abundance of caution, and to avoid even the slightest appearance of a conflict, I am not going to participate in the discussion of this agenda item or vote on the item. My attorneys have sent a letter to the Commission, and I ask that it be read into the record. The only thing that I would say before I would actually leave, again, because we're not voting on an item, it's only a discussion item, I would like to at least make sure that the clerk actually reads it in the record. I think that that probably would set a better tone for the meeting or the discussion. Thank you.
All right. We're coming now to an item. The best thing to do for me is probably just to read exactly what Michelle Spence-Jones wants me to read into the record. So if you would indulge me, it's a two-page letter. It is from Emery Celli, C-E-L-L-I, Brickerhoff and Abadi, LLP. They're located at 75 Rockefeller Plaza, 20th floor, New York, New York. It is a letter addressed to each commissioner. It is dated January 9, 2013. The reference is the January 10, 2013 City of Miami Commission meeting non-agenda item appointing special counsel to the City Commission. Dear sirs, we represent Commissioner Spence Jones in a pending federal lawsuit captioned Spence Jones versus Rundle et al. 12 CV 24253. We write concerning the above non-agenda item scheduled to be heard January 10, 2013. As the new paragraph, as the Commission is aware, Commissioner Spence Jones has sued, among others, Mayor Regalado in his personal capacity, as set forth in the complaint in the federal lawsuit. The mayor has since requested that the City of Miami pay attorney's fees of his hand-picked lawyer in the lawsuit. It is perhaps inexplicable that the mayor would request the Commission to choose sides in a lawsuit between a sitting commissioner and sitting mayor, by funding one side of the litigation, parentheses, the mayor's side, close parentheses, no less at the expense of Miami taxpayers, period. However, we understand that this issue is presently before the Commission and do not formally address it here. Commissioner Sarnoff has since placed on the Commission agenda whether to hire Richard Davis as counsel to advise the Commission on this and other matters related to the federal lawsuit. As to that non-agenda item scheduled for January 10, 2013, new paragraph. First, aside from a brief opening remark and out of abundance of caution, Commissioner Spence Jones will not be participating in or voting on the item. However, we do not think it is appropriate as plaintiff's counsel to communicate to the Commission through this letter, as the mayor has already advocated and presumably will again advocate his position before the Commission. Second, it is our responsibility to inform the Commission that Commissioner Sarnoff is himself a witness to a number of key events in the federal case. It would seem inappropriate for a federal witness to vote on Commission issues related to the case, including whether to pay for the defendant's legal fees. New paragraph. Third, we request an opportunity to be heard before the Commission considers votes upon Mayor Regalado's request for the city to pay his attorney's fees, should it ever do so. New paragraph. Thank you for your attention in this matter. We respectfully request this letter be read into the record and made an official part of the January 10, 2013 Commission proceedings. Respectfully, Han M. Mazel, M-A-A-Z-E-L. It is carbon copied Michelle Spence-Jones, Johnny Martinez, Julie O'Brew, Todd Hannon, Ray Tassiv, Charles Ogletree. That's exactly what's read into the record, and that is exactly what was requested. If this commission will recall, you gave me by resolution the chore to hire or find counsel who could give us recommendations on how to proceed forward. Proceeding forward was not limited to whether we should or should not pay the mayor's attorney, although that certainly is something we need to consider, and forgive me, I use it as corporate governance. How does this commission proceed forward with regard to all sorts of issues as a result of a sitting commissioner suing a city mayor? As we all know, the city attorney has completely stepped out of this particular issue, will not answer any questions attendant to it, and has left us to find that counsel. Now, a word about how Richard Davis came to me. I listened to Commissioner Gort pretty carefully when he said, I want to get the right advice. I don't want to get some advice, I want to get the right advice. There are very few corporate governance lawyers in the United States. There are lawyers that will claim that they can do corporate governance. There are lawyers who insinuate they can do corporate governance, but think about it. It's such a hyper-technical issue that New York City probably would be the central capital for that, possibly Chicago, Illinois, possibly Washington, D.C. Richard Davis is a person not known to me. Matter of fact, Richard Davis is on the phone, and I could tell you, Mr. Quignon, anyone out in the public, I don't know him at all. Never met the man before. If I fell on his lap right now, it would be brand new to me, which is also attractive to me and should be attractive to this commission, because to some degree, all of you are related to lawyers, what I call 2 degrees of separation. If we were to hire counsel from Miami, there would always be the insinuation, oh, is that Sarnoff's buddy? Oh, does that guy know Gort? Suarez's cousin used to work at that law firm. There's always some connection. Richard Davis has absolutely, as far as I can tell and in conversations with him, no connection to the city of Miami whatsoever. His background I provided to you. As I always put, there's something in everything with Richard Davis, because he is, I believe, the chairman of Legal Aid of New York. He has equally been placed on commissions by then Mayor Giuliani. His corporate governance is extremely deep, which means, for instance, let's just say, for instance, General Electric, if a board of director were suing General Electric for a class action, should that board member continue to sit and approve issues, agendas, budgets for General Electric? These are the type of things that corporate governance lawyers get into. Now, Richard Davis is on the phone with this commission right now. Originally he was charging $900 an hour, which should send shockwaves to all of us here in Miami, because that's a lot of money. He brought it down to $700 an hour. I've asked him to talk to you and consider lowering it, but there's an old saying in law, it's not how much you get paid by the hour, it's what's the bill going to look like when you're all done. And Richard Davis is going to give you a quantity or an amount that he thinks this is going to cost, and he's going to give us a range. And I think I've said enough that I'd like to hear from Richard Davis, if you all would be so inclined. I think he's on the phone. Richie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can. It's all yours.
Yes, well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and to be considered to provide counsel. I think, as Chairman Sarnoff mentioned, I think in looking to me, the principal reasons were, one, he didn't know me as a plus, as the experience I've had in governance. I also think because I've worked with and been in city government and federal government, and I'm used to giving advice in difficult and public situations. So I think that, as he indicated, I've been everything from I'm chairman of the Legal Aid Society to having been appointed by Rudy Giuliani to be chairman of commissions that oversaw aspects of the New York City Police Department. In terms of what I think this would cost, first of all, in discussing this with Chairman Sarnoff yesterday, I told him that I would reduce the hourly rate further to $650 an hour. But second, that I thought that this would cost no more than $20,000 to $30,000, and indeed, under no circumstances will the city of Miami be charged more than $30,000 for the basic work. I say the basic work. I mean, obviously, if after I give my initial advice and certain follow-on, you want me to do additional things, we would discuss that. But for the advice you're looking for, it's not going to cost you any more than $30,000, and I would hope that it could be less. Assuming you decide to, approve that my appointment, I would immediately begin working. I think I can, work expeditiously, and we look forward to the opportunity to serve you.
Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Davis?
Not really. None of him.
No? The one thing I want to make clear, we're not hiring Mr. Davis to tell us whether we should pay or not pay the mayor's legal counsel. That may be a slice of the pizza, but there's a whole lot more to it than that. And since we're not corporate governance lawyers, and some of us aren't lawyers, we simply need advice on the issues that will face us going forward. And we don't have a city attorney available to us. I think the fee range between $20,000 and $30,000 to get what I would characterize as probably one of the best corporate governance lawyers in the country. This is novel ground here. Even for the city of Miami, we've never crossed this Rubicon before. And this is a very big Rubicon to cross. And you have a sitting mayor and a sitting commissioner suing each other. We have the implications of whatever paragraph 23 indicates, because it does indicate the mayor was acting in the course and scope of his employment and was an agent on behalf of the city of Miami. And then the next sentence, I believe, says, but the mayor is being sued in his personal capacity. I think we need advice. I think we need advice for everything that a corporate governance lawyer can tell us we can anticipate that we're going to see, and how do we best proceed forward. I know, Mr. Quinones, you're out there if you want to say something. I read something in the record from the other side. If you want to say something, please do.
Thank you. Jose Quinones. I just want to say that time has gone by. We have, on behalf of the mayor, we have waited, and there's going to come a point in time when things are going to move very, very expeditiously in federal court, as we all know. And I'm waiting to see what you all are going to decide concerning the payment of the fees. It is a very important issue to the mayor at this point. And I think it's one that is separate from the issue of retainment of Mr. Davis. So I'm asking you on behalf of the mayor to make up or to come to that decision as quickly as you can. Not only is there a statutory authority for payment of fees, but actually there is a squarely on point for the Supreme Court case that says that there is a common law right to the payment of fees, in this case for the mayor. So I don't think that this is such a hot issue on the legal arena, whether or not the mayor is deserving or is entitled to get paid for the fees. I think that issue can be decided. It's a discrete, separate issue from the one of other issues that, of course, Mr. Davis is much more qualified to guide you all on, which is what is exactly the potential liability of the city in a situation like this, And I think going down the road, there are other issues involved, and I won't get too much of a feel on that, but that there's going to be some litigation that is going to bring up to the surface other issues that may further complicate this matter. I won't go any further into those things at this point, but in any event, I think it is a good idea to have guidance at this point by for the commission. And quite frankly, I did a little bit of research after learning who the chairman in this case had tried to retain. And I, as a lawyer, I mean, you can't be in better hands than Mr. Davis. I mean, the guy has a tremendous resume, tremendous experience in this area. And quite frankly, the commission is in need of assistance and guidance in this situation. But again, going back to the mayor, we need to have a decision made concerning the fees, because I need to start working and we're waiting for you all. And I thought, quite frankly, that today was going to be that day when you all were going to take up the issue of the mayor's attorney's fees. So I implore you on behalf of the mayor to please come to grip with this issue and decide it as quickly as possible, because again, things are going to move quickly and I need to start working on the case.
Thank you.
Mr.
Anybody
Chair.
have any questions? Go ahead.
Sure. Just for him, no, has the mayor been served?
No, not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Or I'll yield to Commissioner.
I mean, I'm going to have more to say, but the one thing that I do want to point out with what Mr. Quignon has mentioned is that, and as you all know, I am not an attorney. However, I do know that the courts are usually sensitive to unique circumstances. Therefore, and I understand he represents his client, and his client wants to move this as expeditiously as possible, and know that he's going to get his attorney paid for his legal. But the bottom line is, I represent the citizens of the city of Miami, so I need to make sure the decision is correct. And not being an attorney, I could tell you the courts are usually sensitive to unique situations, and I believe this is a unique situation. So with that said, you know, I'll yield to Commissioner Suarez, but I needed to say that for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Chair.
You're recognized.
Thank you. You know, it kind of dovetails a little bit off what Commissioner Carollo said. Well, first of all, the way I understood our last commission meeting, I think I understood it correctly, but when you said corporate governance, you meant essentially someone to replace the city attorney, because the city attorney had recused himself or herself, and so we needed basically a substitute. I think in every matter of this, like you said, this is definitely never happened before here. Hopefully, never happens again. But in any matter that even closely resembles this, I personally have been very vocal on it, and I've also leaned very heavily on the city attorney. Having said all that, and so I think this body does deserve representation. There are 2 of the 4 members that are not lawyers. Even as a lawyer, you know, I don't specialize in this area of the law, so I think we do deserve representation. The concern that I have, to be honest, is, as Commissioner Carrillo mentioned, I represent a district in the city of Miami where my residents have absolutely no comprehension of what is going on here. I mean, they thinking about $700 an hour for an attorney. I mean, some people make $700 a month in my district. I mean, it's beyond the pale, you know, for them to think that we would hire an attorney. We are a fairly poor city. So, you know, I did a little bit of background investigation, and we did entrust you with coming up with options. And I think one of the good things is, since the mayor hasn't been served, there isn't, I'm sure Mr. Quignon would probably differ with this, but there isn't a pressing need in terms of what work he has to do right away. You know, look, I looked at all of the outside counsel firms that we currently employ, that we currently have relationships with, including on the SEC litigation, which is a litigation that has cost us close to $2 million. The one we pay the most to is $450. And so, and I understand what your argument is, which is that, look, you're more concerned about the aggregate cost versus the per hour fee. So, but I think there is a sensitivity here that, you know, our residents are first of all, they just don't understand what's going on here. And secondly, the thought of paying someone an hourly rate that constitutes what many of them make on a monthly basis, it's just, it's beyond a comprehension. So, I think we have work to do here. I cannot support paying someone $700 a month. I can't support paying someone $650 a month. When you average out the city attorney's hourly rate, somewhere in the vicinity of $110 an hour, so we get a pretty good corporate, governance per hour rate. And then, of course, all our outside counsel fees, none exceed $450. I am sensitive to your argument that hiring a local counsel, there seems to be some entanglement between any one of us in a relationship, doing business, friendship, whatever that may be. So I have some sensitivity to that. I kind of get that argument, but I can't support a rate anywhere near that high. So I don't know what that means for Mr. Davis. A lot of times people represent the city of Miami because they want to put that on their resume, and they are obviously undercutting their own actual billable rates. They would never charge their own personal clients, their own private sector clients, the rates that they charge the city. And I think there's a good reason for that. You're doing a public service. We're all here doing a public service. None of us here are making, to stand here on an hourly basis, what we probably could be making in our private sector job. We're doing this because we care about our community, and we're doing this at a sacrifice to our own personal wealth, our own personal finances. So that's my basic position on this issue.
Mr. Gort?
Not being an attorney, this is kind of difficult for me to understand, so you got to feel how the people out there feels about it. One of the things I wanted to do is, my understanding is we want someone to come in here and let us know what we, according to our city charter, according to our legal rights, what should we do? I don't think the city is part, maybe the city later on might be part of this. I don't know. I hope not, and it'd be a different time. I believe what we need is someone to come in here and let us know as commissioner what are we allowed to do, and what we can do that is correct and is legally done. Now, I approached the legal city. They have a Florida Legal Cities and the Miami-Dade County Legal City. They have an organization or a committee of all the lawyers from all the municipalities. I've asked them, we have agreements with other cities when it comes to police, exchange police and fire, how to support each other. And I asked them if they were willing to maybe look at this and maybe come up with someone from one of the other cities that have experience in city government and let us know more or less basically what we can do. Later on, if it's something even harder that gets more complicated, then we'll have to look at some other attorney. I mean, this is the way I look at it. I'm not an attorney, so this is my personal opinion.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, and by the way, there are many aspects to this that I'm going to want to touch upon, but, to a certain degree, I agree with Commissioner Gort. I have thought of maybe, retired judges, former county or county attorneys, city attorneys, that have experience and now are retired and maybe could come forward. It just seems like something that our city attorney can do. And by the way, let me also say, that I thank you for going out there and finding such a good attorney. And this has nothing to do with Mr. Davis. But at the same time, I honestly thought that you would be bringing forward, various attorneys or firms that could represent us. And I have to admit, I was sticker shock. I understand New York is a little different, that area is different from Miami, but still, I was very sticker shock. And again, like I mentioned to Mr. Quignon and everybody, I represent the citizens of the city of Miami, and I can tell you $700 a month. I have residents in my district that make less than $700 a month. With that said, I want to explore whether there are, former judges, retired county attorneys that could help out. And I want this to be a transparent, open, and competitive process. I mean, right here, even though, once again, you've chosen a very good attorney, at least from the documents that you've provided, there are no options. I'm placing a position whether we choose Mr. Davis or we don't. So now I want to open it up to, other possibilities. And to be honest with you, I understand corporate governance, I understand vicarious liability, but to what extent? I mean, it's pretty much, well, he's going to interpret Chapter 23 and see if, the mayor's being sued in his official capacity or as an individual. Where exactly, when you say corporate governance, what exactly, is he going to have that other attorneys do not have, like a former retired county or city attorney?
Well, I actually thought about the former, everybody's thinking of Murray Greenberg, and then I looked at everybody's connections to Murray Greenberg.
No connection.
Well, no, there are connections. Everybody here has some connection to Murray Greenberg. But who's to say that Murray Greenberg has ever crossed the Rubicon of this county mayor being sued by a sitting county commissioner? Those are Rubicons. What are they? I know they call these one-off lawsuits, Mr. Quignon, or they call these, I think they call them sportive lawsuits, which is, this is the only time you'll ever see this. But there are attorneys who have seen this in the past. And Commissioner Gort, it's interesting to say, well, let's get the less expensive lawyer, and if we need the more expensive lawyer, we'll hire him later. You'll never have that opportunity. And I can tell you this, whoever we hire locally, or even whoever we hire in the South Florida region, or whoever we hire in the state of Florida, will have significant legal research to get up to speed that Mr. Davis has through his experience as a U.S. attorney, as a Watergate Special Prosecution prosecutor, as Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, in his representation of New York State, in his representation of New York City, in his representation of the borough of Brooklyn. He has done this before. That body of knowledge is, Commissioner Suarez, you said, I understand that it's going to be $20,000 to $30,000, and I like that, but I don't like the hourly rate. You might get a lawyer for $400, for $350, for $300 an hour. That lawyer will spend 20, 30 hours getting up to speed on corporate governance. Then that lawyer will do the analysis necessary to do that, and he will not have the experience other than what he's read to give us an opinion. I can tell you this. There are so many permutations and so many issues out there that we will face that you're going to want to get on a phone and you're going to want to have a blueprint to go forward with, which we're going to get advice. Like any principal in this world, lawyers love when you don't take the advice because they're not held responsible. But we're going to get advice. We're either going to take that advice, we're going to modify that advice, or we're not going to accept that advice. But it's going to be on the record as to what a well-skilled, highly specialized lawyer is telling us his best advice to do. And there will never be an opportunity to make a left turn or a right turn in this road to turn around and say, well, let's get the more expensive lawyer now because I'm not sure of that advice. It's the old saying, you get what you pay for. That's a true statement. And you certainly, I think you owe it to the citizens of Miami to get the proper advice on something as profound as this and not to take advice from somebody who has never done this before.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
You're recognized.
Thank you. I don't know what connections I have with Mr. Greenberg other than I know one time he represented the city in a lawsuit, which was, I'm not sure if he was actually retained as counsel or he just came in as an advisor, came in an advisory role, which was actually interesting because my guess is he might actually even do this for free. But Mr. Greenberg is a expert municipal attorney. I mean, he was a county attorney for several decades. And in that case, I remember specifically, talking about it was actually a former city attorney And that's why the city attorney, I think, was also disqualified, or not disqualified, I guess had also recused herself from advising us on that issue. And he gave good advice. I mean, and, we ended up taking a very hard stance, and it ended up being the right stance, and we prevailed in that case. It's an option. I don't know. I think the other thing is, too, is this is Florida law. And so, it's a New York lawyer. I don't know what kind of experience he has in Florida law. I don't know if he understands Florida law, if he's even licensed to practice in Florida. I don't know. So, I think having someone that has, I think that's a good suggestion. I don't know. I don't know if anyone's contacted him or if he would be willing to represent the city.
Well, here's the problem with Murray Greenberg. He's retained me before.
So
Murray Greenberg has retained me to work for him before. So right away, it will have an appearance that will not look good to this community. And that's why I stayed away from it. I mean, you've been a lawyer for X years.
8.
I've been a lawyer for 26 years. Very few lawyers don't know me or are not 1 degree of separation away from me. And all due respect, your father has been a lawyer a very long time. And he's going to have that same issue. And I think you're a little bit tied to the District 7 Commissioner to some degree. Well, I'm just giving an appearance suggestion. Here's what it comes down to. We know what the best looks like. We know what the best is. Anything we do right now is a photocopy of the best. Keep photocopying it and the original, and inevitably you won't be able to read it. This is my best judgments of who to hire. If he's willing to lower his hourly rate for appearances, because what really matters is the bill that's rendered at the end of the day, not the hours it took to render that bill. But I understand the appearance. Mr. Davis, would you be willing to lower your hourly rate to $450 an hour?
Excuse me, to forfeit. The other way, the other way to do it is to do it without any rate and just say, for the defined assignment, the bill will be will be $20,000 or $25,000. Period.
Flat rate.
Or,
flat rate.
Flat fee.
Flat fee. Are you willing to do this on a flat fee?
That's what I'm saying, is to just do a flat fee, and, I'll either do better or worse, that's fine. I mean, because I was going to cap it anyway. We could do, $25,000 as a flat fee, or, we'll define, the work in some way that's sensible for everybody, and it's a flat fee, and there's no hourly rate.
Okay. Well, the last thing I want to comment on is they're in federal court. I know your judge has recused himself. Well, I think a couple of judges have recused themselves. Who's your judge now, Mr. Quignon? Don't know. There's a 90-day rule in federal court. I'm trying not to use any knowledge I have. Mr. Quignon is right. Whether he served or not, time is running. Because there are rules in federal court for times of service of process that he has to actually affirmatively take action. I think we need to hire counsel who's going to make a number of recommendations to us, and that includes how, if, when, what shape the mayor should not be reimbursed, compensated, paid for his attorney's fees. That's just one issue. How we move forward as a commission is a totally separate issue. But you now have a $25,000 flat rate in front of you. I'd like to put this on the next commission agenda. I think it could be voted on today, but I'm not looking to create a procedural issue for anyone because it was on a non-agenda item, and I don't want to create an issue that doesn't exist. So what's the pleasure of this commission?
My pleasure is to see a proposal from him as to what he proposes to do.
But
I don't understand what the question is.
Mr. Chairman?
You're right.
And,
Maybe he wants more options, and maybe someone else wants something local. I don't know.
I, for one, would like, to see what options we have. Like I said, I could start anywhere in this because there's a whole bunch of issues I have, starting with why is it a non-agenda item? I have never heard of a non-agenda item. This is something new to me. So starting with that, there's a whole bunch of issues. I mean, I'm assuming that the letter from the attorney from Michelle Spence Jones, and believe me, I'm no one to tell you what to do or what not to do, but when they're addressing that you may have a conflict, you feel that you don't, and you're maintaining your position, and you're going to move forward. And again, I'm no one to tell you what to do or what not to do. So there's issues all over the place with this. And yes, at the very least, I honestly thought that there was going to be more options on the table. And even some that we spoke about today, you know, retired judges, whether, or retired, you know, county or former city attorneys, whether it's Mr. Ginsburg or someone else. I mean, this state is rather large. I mean, I haven't looked, or I don't know if anyone's looked up in Jacksonville or Central Florida, Tampa. You know, this state is rather large. So I just thought that there was going to be more options on the table. And again, this is nothing against Mr. Davis, because you know, from you know the documentation you provided, you know, he's a very well, he's an outstanding attorney.
So what I will do, Commissioners, I will now retain my own attorney to give me advice, and I will be asking you to pay for my attorney's fees, since the city attorney can no longer give me advice. So just so you understand, we're going to do this the right way. So I now need to be relieved of the obligation of looking for that counsel, and it should fall on one of you.
Fun times. Look, I have no problem taking on that function and that role. And so if you're going to recuse yourself then from that process, then speaking to the other two commissioners who are still here, we thankfully still have a quorum to make the decision. So
Let me give you a suggestion.
yes, please. That's what I was about
Mr.
to ask.
Davis is willing to have a flat fee, and I think we need for him to, if he can send us, and I think he's very qualified, he can send you a document, the flat fee. This is what I'm proposed to be doing for this flat fee. And then if anybody else wants to bring up some opening, anyone else that can want to bring out, I don't know what the procedure we'll have to use.
Right.
An RFP, a letter of intent, whatever you guys decide. I'm not an attorney, so for me, it's very difficult to deal with this.
I don't think you can do an RFP for attorneys.
Not an RFP, but whatever
Right.
the procedure you use as an attorney. Because in the past, we always had our own attorneys looking
Right.
for the other attorney.
Right.
So we kind of, yes.
Right. Go ahead, Commissioner.
You know, is it possible to do some type of invitation to bid or something like that?
If it is, I have no problem doing that.
You know,
I just don't know how much time we have. That's the other thing, you know, I mean, this is
Gotta
a
be for next
time-sensitive
Commissioner
process.
You guys are not hiring a plumber. You're hiring a lawyer.
Right. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, so would you like me to take on that task? It's not something that I would like to do, but if you want me to do it, I'm not gonna, you know, shrink from it.
well, Commissioner Sarnoff, in all fairness, the reason why, you know, I would yield to you is because you have more expertise in that area because you are an attorney.
Right.
So, you know, having a legal background, you know, that's why normally I would yield, usually financial matters, you all yield to me. So in something like this, you know, I would yield more to you because you are an attorney. But with that said, I think, you know, we're expressing, you know, possibly other options, at least I am. And no, I understand we're not hiring a plumber, but at the same time, you know, Mr. Ginsburger, maybe someone who's retired is watching this on TV and say, you know what, I could do this pro bono, or you know what, maybe there are firms that actually watch commission meetings that, you know, do have an interest in representing the city, yes, for a cost, but not $700 an hour.
Right.
So, you know,
I have a question, not being an attorney. Are we doing right now, in the procedure that we're following right now, is it legal? That's why we wanted someone here to let us know if we are proceeding legally.
Right.
Are we proceeding according to the city charter?
I think to decide on whether or not we need to have, okay, here's the status of where we're at. We have a city attorney. A city attorney has recused herself from the situation. So we don't have any legal advice on the matters that we decide. Okay, so in that sense, we are kind of on our own. I think we have a dual obligation. Obviously, we want the best representation possible, but we also represent the citizens of our city, and we want to make sure that we do that in a very careful way. So if the remaining commissioners that are here would like for me to go out there and look for possibly retired judges, possibly retired county attorneys, and with an emphasis on doing it for the least amount possible, even if potentially pro bono, if they're willing to do it on a pro bono basis. I have no problem with that. You know, I'll go out there and I'll talk to the people who are in the legal community. I'm sure some of them will come forward.
Let me tell you.
And I'll bring you multiple options, and then we'll decide.
Let me tell you what I like to see, and that's what I stated the way I stated before. Have someone to let us know if we're doing the right thing, if we're proceeding the correct thing. If it gets more complicated, if there's something else to be followed up, then give us the guidance what we can do if we can hire someone else. I mean, I want someone to tell me here, what are we doing?
Commissioner Gord, I have not totally removed myself from everything. I have removed myself from any decision or advice that would appear to be tainted, because I do have a conflict under the Florida Bar Rules. I have a member of this municipal corporation that I have a special relationship with, as I have a special relationship with each of you, who is then suing another member of the government with whom I also have a special relationship with the mayor. So I cannot give advice to the board of which this litigant is a member, or to the mayor. But I can tell you that under the city charter and the city code, it is the city attorney who controls, supervises any attorney that the city hires or retains in whatever capacity. However, I have to construe that mandate within the legal requirements that I have to abide by as a member of the Florida Bar. So if I have a conflict, I have to then abstain from being involved in the selection, the control of an attorney, because there could be an appearance that I am trying to favor one side or the other. However, I did advise you that there are ways to handle this. We do this every day. Myself and my staff does this every day. Advice as to whether or not an employee or an official is entitled to legal representation, we do that every day. Advice as to whether there's a voting conflict, we do that every day. Advice as to whether or not there could be indemnity as a result of a judgment entered against an individual employee or an official, we do that every day. Like me, there are hundreds of other attorneys in the state of Florida. There are at least 800 municipalities that I know of that have these kinds of issues. These are issues that require construction of a Florida statute, our charter, and perhaps the common law of the state of Florida. You are, I think, well advised, to rely on a selection made by one of your members who is an experienced attorney. I have no doubt that the attorney that's being presented has the qualifications. Also, as suggested by Commissioner Suarez, we have the Florida League of Cities, the Florida Municipal Association of Lawyers. We have IMLA, which is a national association of municipal attorneys. So there are attorneys that specialize in advising the governance of municipal corporations, which is what you're looking for as identified by Commissioner Sarnoff. And I can give you a list of organizations. You can you can work in conjunction with your, maybe your HR department to put out a notice soliciting anybody who would want to present their resume or a proposal. But what you're doing is appropriate, because I concur that I cannot be involved in advising you on this matter. I concur that you need advice on this matter, and I think the process that Commissioner Sarnoff employed is appropriate, as would be any other process, as like the one suggested by Commissioner Suarez.
Mr. Chairman, and
You recognize.
and what the city attorney just mentioned, it's more in line with what I am seeing. I don't know if we need such a specialized attorney. And again, saying that, he may be very good, but I don't know if we need such a specialized attorney. I don't know if we could just...
Just sitting here, Commissioner, I thought of 3 more conflicts. Just sitting here. And before anybody undertakes to do any further research, consider potential conflicts of interest down the road. We are walking in a minefield, period. I mean, I now need to get counsel. I think I know the answer to the question because I know what a conflict of interest is with regard to the city attorney's advice before. I want to confirm that with a lawyer, get a written, at least a written opinion to me to know that I can proceed forward. I somewhat disagree that I'd like to know, and I'm going to ask for this research. I think it's something the city attorney can do. How many times in the United States has a commissioner sued a sitting mayor?
Commissioner, you know, the seminal case in the state of Florida that deals with when an elected official or an employee is entitled to attorney's fees, Thornburg, I think involved the situation where there was dispute amongst members of the council themselves. So it does happen, Commissioner. I mean, I can give you memos of law that we've done, I can give you research, but believe me, Miami is not the only city where council members have engaged in internal disputes within the council family.
But, Ms. Brew, there's a difference between commissions and councils because of the power of a commissioner versus the power of a councilman.
Well, I'm sorry, but council is used interchangeably with commission and boards.
But it isn't, because council ordinarily means a strong mayor form of government. We don't have a strong mayor form of government, and that's why I just prefaced by saying, you know, 3 commissioners without a veto control the city in a lot of respects. And in a council form of government, that's not so apparent.
Mr. Chairman, 1 minute, please.
Recognize.
Good afternoon, Kenneth Robertson, Purchasing Director. From a procurement perspective, I would just like to communicate to the Commission that the procurement of legal services is specifically excluded from our procurement code per Section 1872, so you may feel free to select the attorney of your choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Sarnoff, can I be recognized just for 1 moment?
Sure.
My name is Ana Maria Pando. I'm a former county court judge and an prior assistant city attorney for about 10 years. And all I have to say is that it's great to see you all. Thank you for recognizing me, and it's great to be back home. And I just wanted to say, Mr. Sarnoff, that I cannot do it on a pro bono basis, but we certainly can provide, I can certainly provide services to the city and my new law firm that I'm at for $300 an hour. I was authorized to say that. So I'm here to let you know that I have the experience. When I was with the city, I handled these issues on a daily basis. And as a retired judge, I was a judge for 12 years, I certainly have the necessary litigation experience. And in terms of love for the city, I will be representing the city like if it were a family member, because that's just the type of lawyer I was. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Judge.
So my understanding, what I'm here is you, Commissioner Suarez, you can perform.
All right, so, I mean, if there's no other option, what I'll do is, between now and the next commission meeting, try to find, no less than 3, no more than 5,
Or see what
including Mr.
Yeah.
Davis.
Yeah, and see what's out there. I mean,
Right.
I definitely want to see the proposal from Mr. Davis.
Yeah.
And I want to compare it to others because, you know, something that Commissioner Sarnoff mentioned, yeah, it could be $300 an hour, but at the end of the
Right.
day,
What's
it'll
the
end up being $50,000. So I would like $300 an hour at a cap of X
Right.
amount.
Right.
You
Or
understand?
even compare apples and apples, just have flat fee proposals. Instead of
And then we
doing,
pick the lowest one.
no, I don't think we necessarily are bound by picking the lowest one. I think we have the ability to compare flat fee proposals and say, you know,
Experience and knowledge.
right, we have to weigh everything and then make the decision we think is the best for the citizens of the city.
But there's options, there's competition.
But we're also comparing apples to apples instead
It's
of,
imperative that we vote at the next commission meeting.
I have no problem with that.
Yes.
Because I think in federal court, it's just not, it's going to move at some rapid pace. I think the mayor's entitled to know. And remember, just because we hire them at that next commission meeting,
Right.
it could be 30 days before they have their opinion.
Agreed.
And then you have Mr. Quignon, you have the mayor.
I agree.
In flux, to
I agree.
put it best.
I agree.
All right, so
Wait,
Mr. Chairman, and should any attorneys contact us, what should be the process? Have them send their resumes? And
yeah, I would say send a resume and a written proposal, which will be a flat fee proposal. And the scope of work will be, you're in essence giving us advice on all the matters relating to this litigation, as if you were the city attorney for the city of Miami, in that capacity.
And you'll be bringing all the proposals to the next
Yes.
commission meeting? Thank you.
And Madam City Attorney, I'd like to establish, can you represent me and give me advice as to the section where it was read that I could potentially, well, I don't think they said potentially, I will be a material witness. Can I sit here and vote on this issue?
Commissioner Sarnoff, I think that's something that you as an attorney will have to decide what it was that you, I mean, only you know what you were involved in, and I think that you can always contact the Florida Bar and
Well,
request an
I think I know
opinion
what I was
from them.
involved in too, so I was a little surprised to hear that I'm involved in anything. But having said that, there's an allegation, and I'm asking you, as my attorney, until you declare a conflict,
Right.
can I sit here and vote?
Again, I would think that if you know that you have nothing to worry about in terms of implications in this lawsuit, if you feel that the testimony that is alleged that you're going to give is material enough, significant enough, where you feel uncomfortable being involved, then perhaps you can reach out to the Florida Bar and ask for an opinion on whether or not you have a conflict.
And just so the record's clear, by you suggesting there's anything, I'm suggesting this is all news to me and there's nothing.
Right. Therefore, then I don't believe that you have a conflict. If this is just simply something
So
that...
you can or cannot give me
Well,
advice.
you know, if we could all be witnesses at any time in this case, all of us, any one of us. That doesn't mean that you have a conflict just because you're a witness in the case.
And that's something I wanted to hear.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I think the press has incorrectly reported that I recused myself because there's reference to my being a participant in certain events or a witness to certain events. That's not the reason why I have removed myself from participating in any advice to this commission. So, no, you don't have a conflict simply because you may be a witness in the case.
That's what I needed to hear from my lawyer.
Well, again, you always have the Florida Bar that you can rely on to as a member of the bar.
Mr. Chairman,
You recognize.
and speaking with regards to the Florida Bar, we will be also looking for attorneys outside of South Florida, because I know Commissioner Sarnoff, Chairman Sarnoff, did a good point that, I don't want any perception that any of the attorneys know me and stuff like that. So
I think it's a great point.
Hopefully it could be, statewide, so it could be, maybe from Tampa, Jacksonville, taking nothing away from any attorneys from here or former, council or city or county councils from here, but I want to make sure that, everything that's been addressed here is also taken into consideration.
I'll do the best that I can in 2 weeks. I will do the very best that I can. Now I'm in your position where you were 2 weeks ago, so I can only imagine how much fun that's going to be. And I'm saying that facetiously, by the way. So I'll do the very best that I can. I'll try to, reach out to people in multiple jurisdictions and, I'll use all the resources that were suggested and see if, at the end of the day, it's up to this body to decide.
Right.
So we may end up with Mr. Davis. After it's all said and done, we may end up with someone else. We'll have multiple options, and we'll go forward, hopefully, and then we'll make the next decision and go through this process as it comes to us.
All right.
And
So-
Chairman, thank you very much, and Mr. Davis, thank you for being on the phone.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for being on the phone with us, and I think they're anticipating getting a letter from you for a flat rate. You still there?
Yes, we could, and we could talk about offline exactly what you want me to, in terms of how you want me to describe it. I'll be happy to send whatever you think is appropriate.
Okay. And then send that letter, if you would, to Commissioner Suarez. All right, so we will stand in recess. I'm going to give you guys 3 hours till 12:30. I'm sorry, 3:30, excuse me, 3:30.